Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Unprocessed Sugar. I really appreciate you being here. We're going to do something a little different today. I'm calling this a wrap-up, a New Year's kickoff episode. We're going to highlight some of the main topics or subtopics within different episodes that we've been putting out there. And this way you hear something that sparks an interest, you can go find the entire episode on the website or on YouTube. And while you're at it, if you don't mind, we would really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button. It helps us grow our numbers, which then allows us to reach a lot more people. And again, we really appreciate your support. One of the topics that is a recurring theme is our nutrition and the foods we eat. Definitely one of the main pillars of wellness and well-being. Our episode with Nora Clemens touched on some of the general topics of nutrition. In particular, Nora has a 4-pillar approach to nutrition. Those 4 pillars are whole foods versus ultra-processed or even processed foods, protein, plant loading, and hydration. All of them are equally important, but starting off with the whole foods, I can't emphasize this enough, and it's something that I think almost every episode to some extent we touch on. Whenever possible, eat whole foods and definitely try to avoid processed or ultra-processed foods. Ultra-processed foods start bringing in things like preservatives and food dyes and colorings, things that just aren't healthy for us. And one of the biggest offenders in the ultra-processed food category is high fructose corn syrup. The sugar is the cause of the inflammation. The inflammation is the biggest cause of a lot of the chronic health problems that we all have. So whole food, one of the easiest things to focus on is fruits and vegetables, or fruits and vegetables. So in general, if you can get 5 good servings a day, in particular of vegetables, that would be very, very helpful. So believe it or not, if something's been chopped up and then packaged, that's considered processed. So keep in mind that when you're looking for really the ultra-processed, highly processed foods. So the vegetables do a few things for you. Number one, it gets you fiber. And fiber, I used to think just helped firm up your stools, but really it does a lot more than that, of course. It binds to sugar, so you don't get these massive sugar spikes and then insulin spikes when you eat, and you get more of a level sugar level, glucose level throughout the day. It helps with absorbing certain nutrients, and it also has a lot of antioxidant properties, which is hugely helpful. So try to get those in there. You know, half your plate. Try to aim for half your plate being vegetables. You can have some fruit there as well, but if you can get half your food on the plate being vegetables, that would be a great start. Think about the rainbow. Go for the colors of the rainbow. It doesn't all have to be green, broccoli and spinach, but think about the rainbow. Get a lot of different colors in there, and you're going to end up hitting your mark as far as what you want to get for your vegetables for the day. In the category of nutrition, carbohydrates. Now, there are simple carbs, there are refined carbs. We don't want the refined carbs. An example of refined carbs would be white bread. And that flour, the wheat's been processed and it's been altered. It loses a lot of its nutritional value. Not to mention, they have additives in there that are unhealthy for you. Some of them are even felt to be potential cancer-causing agents. So you want to focus on whole grains. And I know it may not taste as good as a good old Wonder white bread, but it's going to be a lot better for you, a lot more healthy for you. So you don't want to trade off your health for convenience. That's a common theme that I've been learning. It's something that I'm guilty of. I want something quick and on the run, so I trade off my health for convenience. But what happens when you have those refined carbs is that you get an insulin spike. Your blood sugar goes up, you get an insulin spike, and then your body ends up storing all those carbohydrates, which ends up putting weight on and fat storage. So you want to try to stay away from that. Protein, ultra important. Try to have protein with every meal if you can. About 30 grams of protein per meal. How much should you get for a whole day? I'm shooting for about 1.5 grams per pound. So just to make the math easy, if you weigh 100 pounds, you want to try to get 150 grams of protein. Space it out throughout the day and break it up. But Gabrielle Lyons is a big, huge proponent of getting protein first thing in the morning. I've lost a significant amount of weight in the last couple of years, and I've basically done it by fasting. More than that, it's been a starvation diet where I would only eat at about a 3-hour window in the evenings. Not healthy. I wouldn't advocate it, but I wanted to lose the weight quickly and not take 3 years to do it. So in doing so, though, I've lost a lot of muscle mass because I wasn't getting enough protein. So now I have a protein drink, a shake that I make in the mornings that we'll share with you. And that gets me about 80 grams of protein right off the bat. So that also helps to keep your blood sugars level throughout the day, keeps them from spiking and having these ups and downs. And it will keep you full longer than carbohydrates or fat. Now, this is a new one I learned. If you can believe this, it matters what order you eat your food. So try to have your carbohydrates last. First, you want to have your fiber and your fat. Second, proteins and fat. And then last would be your carbohydrates. But it actually does matter. And if you aren't adhering to that, well, what would happen? Well, you end up storing more of it in the carbohydrates, the sugar. More of it ends up getting stored, converted into fat. So you want to really try to keep it in that order if you can, and it would make a difference for you. Next is a category of fats and oils. And not all fats are created equal. Not all oils are created equal. We need fat. We have to have fat. Otherwise, we can't function. Why do we need it? Well, the membranes of our cells are made up of fats, of lipids, and across that membrane is how nutrients get into the cell. So you've got to have fat for that. To absorb your nutrients, you need fat. Fat will combine with the nutrients, and your body's able to absorb those more readily. There are certain hormones, in particular the sex hormones, that are made up of fats. Cholesterol, which we'll talk about in just another moment, has been vilified, and you have to have cholesterol. It goes into the cell membrane, goes into our sex hormones, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. Those all need fats to make them. In fact, 70% are made by our body, the liver in particular, where only 30% are nutritional. So if you ate zero fats at all, zero cholesterol at all, your body's going to make plenty. But it can only do it for so long and so often. So you need to give your body what it needs to function. And in the fats, there are saturated fats, and there are unsaturated fats, and then there are trans fats. Trans fats are always bad. Just make that one an easy one to remember. Margarine, for example, always bad. Saturated fats are better for you, and unsaturated fats as well. So how can you remember what's what? Saturated fats are solid at room temperature. So you cook bacon, you're done cooking, and over the next 10 minutes it cools off, and then it hardens. It's not hard like rock hard, but it becomes firm. And it's that kind of grayish film or a little puddle that will firm up for you. Those are your saturated fats, which are good. Unsaturated fats, even better. Those are the best type of fats for you. So keep that in mind. We need the unsaturated fat because it gives us our omegas, omega-3, omega-6. And we get those things from the unsaturated fats. Olive oil is the golden child. Olive oil is probably the best one. A lot of antioxidant properties. Extra virgin olive oil is even better. Has a little bit of a different taste, I'm sure as you all know. But that's where you get your omega-3 and your omega-6. Omega-3 is good. Omega-6 is good too, but you don't want to get too much of that. But you have to have some omega-6, and there's a ratio there. Now, how do you get that? Well, fish oil, for example, is a big way. But as you'll hear in listening to me, I'm really big on reading labels. So when you see the label, it'll say fish oil. But what you really want is the EPA and the DHA. I won't bore you with the big long chemical names, but that's actually the component of the unsaturated fat that you want. If you just got fish oil, it may fall far short of giving you the amount that you need of those things. So how much do you need? Well, you want 2,000 milligrams a day. So I take 1,000 milligrams twice a day. I take a particular brand, Pure Encapsulations, and by taking that twice a day, I get the amount I need. So a lot of brands will say X amount of omega-3, X amount of omega-6, and then fish oil. And the fish oil they may highlight as having 2,000 milligrams, but it's not what you want. You want the EPA and the DHA. So you get those combined together, 2,000 milligrams a day, and you're set. But keep in mind, trans fats are never good. That's an easy one to remember. Now, again, talking about labels, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the different loopholes that are there for makers of different products to be able to make a claim when it really isn't true. What do I mean by that? Well, trans fats. In 2018, the government said, okay, you cannot put trans fats in food at all. Wonderful, right? Well, if you have under 0.5 grams of trans fats per serving, you can put on your label, no trans fat. Because let's say it has 0.4 milligrams. Well, they can say no trans fat. That's pretty deceptive and it's pretty sinister, I think. Not to be hyperbolic about it, but if they're bad and we're not supposed to have them, then we're not supposed to have them. So how do you figure out what to do? Again, go back and read the label. What you're looking for is hydrogenated oil. Hydrogenated oil is basically synonymous with trans fats. So you see no trans fat, don't stop there. Look at the label, look for hydrogenated oil, and as long as you don't have any of that, then you're good. There are two apps that I've mentioned before that are great for reading labels. The Yucca app, Y-U-K-A, and the EWG app. They're excellent. You scan the barcode of the product you're interested in, and it'll give you a breakdown of everything that's in there, how much per serving, and they'll give you some other information as well, not just that bulk of nutritional information that we're looking for. But you got to look at the labels. And even then, as I just pointed out, they're still going to be sneaky and try to get things by us. So buyer beware. I think it's caveat emptor. I think that's what that is, right? So seed oils, getting a lot of press lately. We're talking about fats and oils. And seed oils in and of themselves are not necessarily bad. It's how they process them that makes them bad. Now, some are, and you just want to stay away from those always. But when they process them with high heat or with a chemical called hexane, that makes them bad. So really stay away from those. But sesame oil, for example, is a great oil, completely healthy and good for you. But you've got to make sure that it hasn't been heat processed or has hexane in the processing of it. And as long as it doesn't have that, then you're good to go. Now, we also got to be careful when we're cooking with these oils because not all oils are good at all temperatures. So for example, olive oil. Everybody's pretty familiar with the fact that olive oil is good for you, as long as you're using it at a low heat. If you use olive oil at a high heat, it'll break it down and it will actually cause inflammation. So you use that for really lower heat, sauteing at a low temperature. If you do need to get something at a higher temperature, then you switch to things like avocado oil. Avocado oil is fine with the high heat, doesn't break down, and you can fry your chicken in it, for example. Get your cast iron skillet out, fry your chicken up. So avocado oil is probably the best oil to use in high heat, and it won't cause you some problems, cause all the inflammation that the other ones are known for. I've started snacking recently on macadamia nuts and walnuts. Very, very good at getting you the omega-3s you need. Grab a handful, a little snack on the run, and it's a quick, easy thing to do, pretty convenient, and it gives you some nutrition that you're looking for. Kind of a side subject of fats and oils is cholesterol. So cholesterol, ooh, it's evil, it's evil, it's evil. Well, it really isn't. Pretty similar to the other items we were talking about with the fats and the oils. You need it. You have to have cholesterol. Cholesterol is what your body uses to make your sex hormones. So sterol, cholesterol, is testosterone, progesterone. You have to have it for your body to make those hormones. It's utilized to make the myelin sheath, which is the kind of the insulation wrapping around a nerve as it travels through your body. 70% of the cholesterol in our system our body makes, primarily in the liver. So 30% comes from diet. But there are people who have problems with how their body makes cholesterol, and then no matter what they do diet-wise, they still have elevated cholesterol. Now, the three components of cholesterol, the good, the bad, the ugly, are HDL, good. LDLs are the bad, but there's subtypes of LDLs that aren't so bad. And then the triglycerides are also not the best for you. So, eggs, unfortunately, got vilified back in the 70s. They weren't quite fake, but they were processed eggs, egg beaters. You take an egg and process it into kind of a fake egg. I just never quite got that. But you need what's in those eggs. And then also the yolk. A lot of people think that if they take the yolk out, just eat the egg whites, you're good. Well, you need what's in the yolk. It's got different components, in particular for brain health, that you really must have for things to function properly. It comes down to the moderation, of course, right? But so statins are the medication that was developed to help lower folks' cholesterol. And when they first came out with this 50-something years ago, the level at which was considered high cholesterol, need you on this medicine, was 300. Then in the 80s, they dropped it to about 240, 250, and there's talk about it even getting lowered. And these reductions in that cutoff correlate in parallel, very much so, with when new patents would come out on cholesterol medication. So it just seems kind of interesting to me that they changed these levels so that they could then justify prescribing them more. But there's the landmark study that started all of this was by Dr. Ansel Keys, and there's significant flaws in his study where he cherry-picked the subjects, so that way it ended up giving him the narrative that he was looking for. So there's even a book, The Great Cholesterol Myth, that we're going to get into in one of the episodes in the near future. But it's just it's a good example of how the pharmaceutical industry has manipulated the data to serve their purpose. They have a narrative, they have an end point that they want to make, and then they manipulate everything so that that's where it ends up pointing to. But the statins work by keeping your body from making cholesterol. So the 70% of the cholesterol that we have that your body makes, that's where the statin medications have their effect. And of course, they're fraught with a long list of side effects, in particular joint, muscle achiness and pain. But how can you lower it without taking a medication? I am absolutely a less is more when it comes to pharmaceuticals. If you need them, you need them. But if there's other ways you can achieve the same goal, then why don't we look at that, right? So what can you do to lower your cholesterol? Lifestyle is the biggest category of things. Move. Every day, move. Go for a walk. Doesn't have to be some big, bad workout in a gym. Just go for a walk. What you eat, again, we talked about it already, but the plate of food should be about half of it should be vegetables. Try to have the colors of the rainbow on there as well. Excuse me. And moderation, of course, right? Just keep in mind how much you're eating, and those three things will keep you on the right track. It's not that hard to do. All change sometimes is a little difficult, but baby steps, little by little by little, and eventually you're going to work yourself into a really nice pattern of how you're eating and how well you're taking care of yourself. So the moving, the exercise part, we'll talk a little bit more in the fitness, but what do you want? How much is enough? You want about 150 minutes a week of some type of cardio, moderate cardio. It doesn't have to be super intense, just simple going for a walk. So 150 minutes a week, so if you did 30 minutes, 5 days a week, boom, you're on the number. About 2 or 3 days, you want to do some resistance training. It doesn't have to be weightlifting. It can be rubber bands. The bands are an awesome form of exercise. They give you a great amount of resistance through a larger arc of motion than just using a machine or a dumbbell. So that's your goal there, 150 minutes a week of moderate cardio exercise, and then 2 to 3 days a week of some strength training. Now, you don't have to be getting big and bulky, and that's not what the goal is here. It's, like I said, resistance. You want to get tone. When you build muscle, it increases your metabolism. You'll actually burn more calories. You'll have a metabolic rate that's more conducive to being fit and healthy. So you're not going to get all big and bulky. I mean, you could, but as we get older, that becomes pretty difficult to do. So really it's about getting tone and increasing muscle mass so that you increase your metabolic rate and burn more calories just with simple activities of daily living. So fitness, let's talk a little bit more about fitness. I don't want to work out, but you gotta. Start with baby steps, a 10-minute walk, 15-minute walk, just little baby steps. Don't and don't set up a goal that becomes a burden. You don't want it to be something that you're begrudging having to do it. So 10-minute, 15-minute walk, nice and easy. We talked about distances and the amount of days a week. But also in there, you've got to have some time for recovery. You want at least one day when you're not doing that stuff. I'm not saying sit on the couch and hang out all day on the couch, but you don't need to be push 7 days a week. Give yourself some time to recover. Give yourself some time to heal, especially if you're starting to develop any soreness or tightness. You want to give yourself a chance to recover from that and feel better. So start slow, 150 minutes a week, 2 to 3 days a week of the resistance. Now, a lot of people have heard that old saying, no pain, no gain. That is not true. That is from the 70s, back in Arnold Schwarzenegger's days, where they were lifting heavy weights, trying to really bulk up, and they were talking about that burn that you get in the muscle. That is not what we're looking for here. If you're having pain, you're doing too much, you're pushing too far, especially if it's pain in the joints or in the tendon portion of things. So it is not true, no pain, no gain. You will gain plenty even without having pain. One of my favorite episodes was the toxins in the house and poison on your plate episode. That was a very big eye-opener for me. It probably is the one episode where I instituted the most changes in my life and in my family's life and in our home. But our house, our environment that we live in is full of toxic materials. Cleaning products. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? They're chemicals. But cleaning products are very, very toxic. They're full of bleach and ammonia, VOCs, which they use to give things fragrance. And the term they use is off gas. They generate gases that float around and cause you problems. So you really want to, again, read the labels, but you want to stay away from cleaning products that are heavily full of those types of chemicals. So what's one to do? Well, vinegar is an awesome cleaning agent that's natural. It's not toxic at all. And it can be used to clean almost any type of surface. It can even be used for your laundry. Maybe a little lemon juice with that can help offset the smell of it. But lemon juice itself is a great cleaning agent as well. And mix those together if you need to. Baking soda is also a very good one, especially if you've got a surface that you want to really scrub, have a little grit to it. The baking soda is wonderful for that. So you can mix them all together. I can tell you one thing, do not mix Comet and bleach. I learned that the hard way as a young boy. I was in the bathroom I was cleaning the tub, and I mixed those two together, and that is very toxic. And I found that out very quickly, so don't do that. The non-stick cookware, very bad. Teflon is full of fluoride type of chemicals. The PFAs, it's also got, PFAs are your forever chemicals. Why do they call them that? Because they're around forever. They don't break down. They're there way after we're long and gone. So you want to stay away from the non-stick cookware. So what are your alternatives there? Ceramic, which is what we use right now. I think we might change when we get new ones to replace those. The reason why is they scratch very easily. They're not the easiest to clean from that standpoint, but a little extra time, a little gentleness on it, and you'll be okay. But you definitely need to stay away from those. So what can you use? Ceramics, I mentioned. Stainless steel, which is what a lot of commercial kitchens will use. A fair amount of elbow grease to get those clean. And cast iron skillets. You know, I grew up in the South, and everybody had a cast iron skillet. That's how you fried your chicken. But that takes a fair amount of elbow grease as well. But again, don't trade your health for convenience. Those things work great, and you'll be better off for it. Air fresheners aren't the best for you. They're full of all kinds of chemicals, VOCs, which give them a fragrance, phthalates, formaldehyde. These are things that are not good for you, and you get them in the air, you get them on the surfaces of things. You're not only inhaling them, but you're getting them on your skin, and they can cause all kinds of skin sensitivity issues. So try to stay away from those. So what is one to use? Well, essential oils with a diffuser, and you can put those throughout the house. A simmer pot, which is what we'll use a lot at the holidays this time of year. My wife will put that on with a cinnamon stick and lemon, orange, and let it simmer all day long. It is awesome. The house smells wonderful and easy to make, easy to clean up. Beeswax candles are also very good. Nice smell to them. They don't last a super long time. They burn a little faster than regular candles, but they're very, very nice. Excuse me, and certain plants. There's a plant called a snake plant. I want to say it might even be called a mother-in-law plant. I'm not completely sure. But it actually purifies your air. So you put those around your house and it'll clean your air for you. The next one would be plastics. And people, I'm sure, have heard a lot about microplastics lately. And there's a lot of thought that microplastics are one of the, if not the leading cause of the infertility problem we're having in this country and even worldwide. In the United States of America, fertility rate is half of what it was 20 years ago. And a lot of the thinking is that it has to do with these types of things. And they're generally categorized as endocrine disruptors. So endocrine system is our system that makes the sex hormones and so forth. So that whole loop, if you will, has been disrupted, and people are not making the hormones they should make, then they have fertility problems because of it. So you don't want to use plastic, so what should you use? Well, use glass. Use a glass drinking bottle. You can use stainless steel as well, and then that way you're not getting all that microplastic. But it's definitely something you want to try to stay away from. Next would be our laundry detergent, and our laundry soap, our fabric softeners, our dryer sheets. Those things are full of fragrances, the VOCs. You want to try to stay away from those if you can. So what do you use? Well, we use a plant-based laundry detergent. And it's a company called Attitude. I think they're out of Canada. And it's excellent. We love it. And they have a full line of products for whatever you need for the laundry, whether it be dryer sheets or softeners or the detergent itself. So something that we've been using lately as well are wool balls. They take wool and they make a ball out of it, and you stick it in your dryer, and it's a fabric softener, and they work amazingly well. I would have never thought something like that would work so well. It does create a fair amount of static in the dryer, so you just have to put a little moisture on the ball, or you can even take like a washcloth, moisten it, throw it in there with everything, and that solved the problem. It was a problem no longer. And next is pesticides. It kind of makes sense, right? Their chemicals are killing living insects, or living beings. So there's several different options you can use here. Something called diatomaceous earth. It's like a white powder that is, it's kind of like fossilized organisms, but that works great. Peppermint, you can put a peppermint spray, works really well. Boric acid works really well, and they're not toxic to us. They don't affect our health at all, and pretty easy to use. Just stick them out where you want. Well, I just put in our garage a bunch of little traps, roach traps. It's got sticky material on the bottom, and I remember those old commercials, the Roach Motel, where roaches check in, but they don't check out. That was a long time ago, but they work great. So there you go with the poisons on the plate and the toxins in the house. So all of this kind of adds up to a thought of why are we so sick? Why do we have a chronic health epidemic, in particular in this country? And it really is quite a bit of its lifestyle. We live a sedentary life. We don't move. We don't get out. We don't exercise. Sit at a desk all day long. Come home, sit on the couch, watch TV or read a book. So that's a big cause of it right there. Stress, chronic stress. We're all under a great deal of stress. Certainly, 5 years ago, we went through the COVID epidemic. That stressed everybody out immensely. Genetic factors, of course, which are out of our control, but the first two are things we can do something about. But genetic factors are absolutely real. They can absolutely affect you positively and negatively. So, like I said, nothing you can do about that, but just being aware of it and then altering your lifestyle to take care of that. So just kind of go back to the stress. Stress management is a multifaceted approach. How you're sleeping and what you're doing during the day to have some time to be still and be quiet. Then another one of why we're so sick is the environmental agents. Things we're exposed to. We just hit on a bunch of those almost everywhere you go. you're exposed to things that are bad, things that are toxic. So trying to be aware of your environment, what's around, what you're touching, what's touching you, and just try to minimize your exposure to different things. Our healthcare system, to give it a little bit of more respect, I won't say it's broken, but it's certainly heavily flawed. Why is that? Well, we seem to focus more on treating things versus preventing them. Try to cut them off at the pass and catch things before they become a problem. It's absolutely a profit-driven model, in particular with large healthcare systems, with the pharmaceutical industry. It's absolutely a profit-driven model. Big time over-reliance on pharmaceuticals and big pharma. So kind of going back to the treatment versus preventive. This leads me into the subject of functional medicine. Now, I never really knew what functional medicine was. It was a kind of quackery. Absolutely not. It really is science-backed, evidence-based medicine, but it asks the question of why, whereas regular medicine asks what. What I mean by that is, what's wrong? What do you have? I have a high blood sugar. My hemoglobin A1C is high. That's what I've got going on. Oh, okay. Well, let's go address that and let's try to fix that, typically with a pharmaceutical agent of some kind. Whereas functional medicine asks the why. Why is your blood sugar elevated? Why is your hemoglobin A1C elevated? And let's address that issue, because that is ultimately what's referred to as the root cause. I hate doing air quotes. The root cause. But the root cause is, why are you sick? Why is your blood sugar elevated? Why is your hemoglobin A1C elevated? And now that's what we address. That's what we attack. And now we're attacking ultimately the root cause of the problem, right? So, and then usually those things can be addressed by lifestyle, by managing your stress, sleep. There's something we're going to start talking about a lot that we're going to roll into the new year with, and that is, I want you and me to fess up. F-E-S-S, fess up. What does that mean? Food, exercise, stress, and sleep. Those are the 4 pillars of wellness and well-being. You address those, you're going to cover all that we've been covering, and even and a lot more that we're going to cover. But I thought that would be good. I don't know about you guys, but I need accountability. If I'm only accountable to myself, I can come up with a ton of reasons why I'm not going to get up early and exercise today. So I got to fess up, and I'm going to be accountable to all y'all, and you can make sure that I'm practicing what I'm preaching. But you address those 4 pillars, if you will, and do it in a stepwise manner that we're all going to learn together, and we're going to tackle this together. We'll be addressing those in coming episodes, and that's really going to be a lot of information that I think will go a long way and help us out in achieving our goals and getting to where we want to be. So get ready to fess up in 26. So that was a lot, I know, but that, like I said, it's kind of a wrap-up, New Year kickoff. And if you hear something that piqued your interest, you can dial in on that particular episode and really get a deeper dive on things. I also want to point your attention to the website with a resource page. And on there, we've got the recipe for a homemade non-toxic weed killer for, I think, 6 or 8 salad dressings that are pretty simple, basic, made with things you probably have in your house right now that are all healthy and are good for you. We've got an air freshener on there. We've got a list of foods that cause inflammation, foods that help reduce inflammation, a shopping list, a pantry list. So I would welcome you to check it out. I think you'll find it helpful. I know for me it's been very helpful. And then that way you go to the grocery store, you got your list. It can be overwhelming. It's even at this point, I still sometimes don't know where to, I don't want to say start, but to continue. But baby steps, just a little bit. How do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. So just little by little. But I would definitely welcome you to check out that resource page on the website, and you'll be able to get some of those PDFs. You can download them and take them with you to the grocery store. Check out those 2 apps, Yucca and EWG. Help you dial in on what you want to stay away from. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on this New Year's kickoff episode. I really appreciate your support. If you would, hit that subscribe button. If you're on the website and you hit subscribe, you'll actually get an email notification whenever we're posting anything new, whether it be an episode or some of these other things I was just talking about on the resource page. But have a great new year. Stay sweet and stay unprocessed. Thanks for joining us. Hi, I'm Dr. David Sugar, a doctor here in Florida, and thank you for joining us on our podcast. A quick note, this is for educational and general information purposes only. Listening to this podcast does not constitute a doctor-patient relationship, and please consult with your own healthcare provider before making any changes to your own care. If you are having a medical emergency, please call 911 or your local emergency number. Any items, tests, medications that we talk about or discuss are for information purposes only and are not an endorsement. Once again, thank you for joining us, and please see the website for the full disclosure and waiver. Thank you very much.